Listen. I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the moms, especially my own. Let's get going. Listen.
Having you to the Black Country Blokes, tune the part about everything it is mental health, disability, and life in general. Here with me, Kev Dillon, and my partner in crime, as always, Lee Cadman. And we're joined today by Moon, who's a mind coach who's helping people.
Mental fitness.
mental fitness coach, mind coach.
Jedi.
A different angle is making you feel better. And I've been working with a lovely woman called Emily Barney, and she's doing something similar, but not completely the same. And it's reminding ourselves to be positive and make us realise that we have got the tools within us, and just reminding ourselves that. But before we start, as always, we're going to go for our gratitude list. I'm grateful. We had a lovely weekend. It's my mother-in-law's birthday, so we went out for a lovely meal. Then went around her house. But my daughter had a birthday party around a school in Wolverley, and it's a dry ski slope. And my daughter, she's only 7, she was frightened. So Daddy went up there, and she was frightened. We went back down, and I was so proud of her for having a go. Then we sat on the tube, and it's your job as a daddy to make sure your children are safe and make them feel safe. And she did, and she was so brave, and her friends were kind, and I was grateful that so often when it's a kid's party, you go, "No, I'm not going. I don't want to go there." But I thought, no, go and be with her, and I was there to give her strength. And it's for those moments you've got to be grateful for, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Instead of sitting on the settee watching bad TV, be there and give someone you love courage. So I'm grateful for that memory. What are you grateful for?
Well, Calla's new PA, she's been off. I won't go into detail because that's her story, but she came back today, and I'm so grateful she's come back and took a bit of pressure off me and my wife and looking after our daughter. So yeah, what was when these people go off through illness or even holiday or time off, it does bring into focus how valuable they are in your life and how part of the family she is now. So yeah, grateful for Mandy today.
Moon, what are you grateful for?
Well, I'm really grateful for the ability to travel because recently, I'm Chinese, so recently we've been flying back to China to visit my family after 3.5 years. It was so good to reconnect with families and friends. And we decided to go to Cornwall last weekend. So, a trip to Cornwall, just got back today. This like past 2-3 years, traveling was quite difficult. And it's hard to see people that when you really want to see them. Obviously, you can see them online, but there's nothing like meeting people in the same room and hugging them and talking to them. So I'm really grateful for the ability to travel again.
And if you think of 2020, it's in living memory. It was the other year. And there was times where we didn't think we were ever going to get back to that. I remember watching travel programs and watching like a train station. I'm thinking, will we ever be able to be in public again? Will we ever go on aeroplanes and boats and Cornwall? And we said, but we took it for granted then, and we've already taken it for granted now. We've forgotten the lessons that are only from the other year.
Absolutely. I think we are prone to do that. We want to focus on the good time. So in a way, maybe it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, like, moving forward, focus on the future and stuff.
You want to learn from the lesson, but you don't also want to dwell into the past. Like this time when we went back to China, I noticed there's still quite a large member of the population. They're still wearing masks, and that's how they feel safe, when they are taking the metro, when they are in public transportation. And there's a lot of people around. But I guess we don't need to judge them and say, well, even if you don't believe that helps, for them, that's psychologically it makes them feel safe. So yeah, but it is.
And they're not bothering you, are they? So
yeah, they don't. Yeah, exactly. But I think it's quite interesting because that's like the residue from COVID. People are still behaving in a way, but some of us choose to move on a different way.
But we said that at the time because with the whole mask thing, people are going, "Oh, you're an idiot if you do," or "Oh, you're an idiot if you don't." And you go, if it makes you, like at the club, if you want me to put my mask on, I will do it. If it makes you feel more comfortable, it doesn't bother me. And that bit of human interaction, that human bit of kindness, it makes us beautiful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And even if you've got the right, even if you've got the truth, at what point does the truth matter? If you're going to make someone feel sad and upset and anxious, isn't it nicer just to go with the flow?
I think you are right on. I think kindness is such a word. We probably tend to take kindness for granted from strangers. Well, especially our loved one. It's like, oh, if somebody take care of me and they love me, kindness is already there. But what I'm seeing is kindness is so needed in this society, especially in public, because I think it's in our nature to judge people if they're different. If you have tattoo and I don't have tattoo, I might judge you. I've heard a lot of stories about that. But yeah, kindness is the key words here.
But we said, like, sometimes, let's say a disabled person is struggling with the door or up the stairs. Your natural instinct is to go over and go, can I help you, sir? Or can I help you, ma'am? And they go, but how about she tells me to go away? But the natural, if she does or he tells me to bugger off, that's his right too. But go with your first instinct of being kind. Because 9 times out of 10 he'll go, thank you. Or they mightn't say nothing. You know what I mean? But you've done your best to help. I always say this quite often, the 4 degrees of kindness. There's some people who, if someone falls over, instinctively goes over and helps them.
Yeah.
There's a second, should I help them? How if they tell them to clear off? No, I will help them. The third person, Lee, someone's fell over there, go and help them, you're right. And the fourth person just walks past. But I think that's the 4 basic elements of kindness. Some who do it instinctively, some who have to have a moment's pause, someone who needs pointing out, and the unkind person just carries on walking. And I think when you look at that in society, you see it everywhere. And sometimes that, should I help them, we've almost been conditioned not to be kind in case they take offence.
Yeah.
Whereas probably that person isn't going to take offence. They'll go, thank you. Like when you see a mother with a pushchair trying to get up the stairs and you just walk by, pick it up, the end of it, and just help someone. That act of kindness stops them from struggling. And we see that also in our relationships.
Yes, absolutely.
I heard a lovely saying once. It was, if you try and move the sofa on your own, it's almost impossible. But the two of you can move it anywhere in the house. So when we start working together, anything's possible. Don't struggle on your own. And if it is a relationship, if one's struggling while the other one's just sitting there, it's destined to fail. You work together as a team. And more we do that as a team, as a community, further we get in life.
Absolutely. That's very beautiful. I think also about kindness is, to me, I think the authentic kind of kindness is you don't expect anything in return.
No.
When you help people, you're not waiting for them to pay you. So that's not kindness.
And you do
That's
get paid by it,
Yeah.
don't you? I think you need to recognise that actually helping people makes you feel good. And there's nothing wrong with
Of
that,
course. It's very addictive.
Yeah, that's it.
But a bit of gratitude goes a long way. That hasn't got to be, you've got to buy me flowers, or just
No.
every so often.
It doesn't got to be anything at all. Like
No.
I say, it just makes you feel
Acknowledgement.
better that you've done it.
But don't be frightened to acknowledge someone every so often. Like every time my wife makes me dinner, thank you, Kate. Or if you have a lift, thank you. Acknowledge the kindness that's been given to you, because once it's gone, it's amazing how much of a hole it leaves in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Have you guys heard of the love languages?
No.
Okay, so because you talk about gratitude, I think it's really interesting. So you can take this assessment. It's very easy, but it identify what your love language is, which is how you interpret love or care. Love is a broad language. So for somebody, it could be, like you said, words of acknowledgement, like, well done, Kev, well done, Lee. And you feel like, this person cares about me. It could be acts of service. So maybe you are more of you prefer people to do things for you, like, help you move furniture, for example. And it could be small, tiny gifts like flowers. So actually knowing your partner's love language will help you to go a long way. Because you might be saying things. The last one is about physical. So maybe it's a hug, maybe it's like a tight squeeze of the arms. But yeah, I think for me, that's really interesting. And I talk about this with my clients a lot. And sometimes it's helpful to know what other people's love language is. And at work, maybe it's not called love language, but it's really about appreciations, right? So how do you show appreciation to your staff? Sometimes when you say, well done, maybe that doesn't register with that person. But if you buy them a small coffee and say, well done, they will interpret that and they will recognize it.
I had a conversation similar to that with my business partner about bonuses, because it's in the same principle. Someone's done well and a lot of time there's a cash bonus, especially in sales, there's a cash bonus for them hitting those targets. And some people are really motivated by that, but other people actually they're happy with how much they're earning anyway, and there's no extra motivation to earn that. But maybe it's, I need we'll give you an extra couple of days off a year, or we'll do the, it's finding that motivation for people to help them to achieve more, isn't it?
Exactly.
And with your love languages, as you say, how many times you go, well, he knew I loved him, or she knows I do. Yeah, well, I'll go out working every day. What else can I do? But it's the act of words isn't to everyone's thing, and you will see people and they go on the deathbed, and you're thinking, my dad tells me every day he loves me. You know, if anybody tells me too much, like I do with my daughter, like I do with my friends. But some people say, my dad never told me he loved me. I knew he did, and he did in his own way. And I think once you can realise, as you said, well, how is he or she trying to communicate with me? That eases the wound. That goes, well, you're right. He did give me a roof, or every birthday he got me a boxing glove or whatever it is. But that was his way of showing.
But it just certainly made me think. I think now of what my wife is. And
you can ask her to take the assessment. It's called the love language. It's very, if you just Google it, it will come up. It's very, very popular. But that's just like references, right? Obviously, you have your own language communicating with your partner. And as you grow, as you've been together for a long time, that also evolves. It could be something else, 10 years from now. But I think that's really important, because it's recognizing that's another human being. It's very different from you. Maybe something that you think is great doesn't mean that it's great for that person. So it's understanding the other person. And also, I think it's kindness. It's trying to understand them.
I think that a lot of my life evolves around that word. How I parent my daughter, how I coach at the club. I said there's 2 rules. We've got to have good manners, and we don't like bullies, and we're kind to one another. And that's just a basic thing of the lines ABC. And I think that in that lovely way, bullying has got so many different languages, hasn't it? Racism, intolerance, homophobia. Don't be nasty to people. Don't bully people. Everyone's got to be valued. And manners. People like to one another, take people's feelings into consideration. And a lot of religions and faiths are built around that, aren't they? Absolutely. Be kind, be good, don't steal, treat people how you want to be treated. And these are simple, basic, but so important morals and fundamentals they can easily step away from. But without those things, everything crumbles.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can imagine when bullies, I'm thinking about bullies. I'm pretty sure don't quote me on this, but I read, and I believe it myself, is whoever bullies, they have been bullied in their life. So they probably come from, a violent family, or they were bullied by other people. And they have to take it out, that kind of pain, they will take it out on another person. But I think also probably lacking of role models in their life, because they don't know how to behave.
Or good role models. They've got a role model, it just might not be the right one. Yeah,
exactly.
And you're taking your frustrations out on someone else, and it's
also learned behaviour as a child. If you see that,
that's what I mean.
It's you copy what's done before.
So, tell us about being a Jedi then. Tell us about it.
I'm going to communicate now, and you will tell what I'm thinking.
How did you get into it, and tell us what it involves?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say my specialist, but I really, I'm really passionate about mental fitness, because I'm sure, as a boxer, this. You can train your body very well. You can tell your body what to do. Your body probably won't just get into a shape organically. Maybe when you're 20 years old, I don't know. But, you need to train your body. You need to build the muscle. It's the same as your brain. It's the same as your mind. You don't just wake up and feeling great. I mean, that's really good. But I think in life, we are bound to have so many challenges. Adulting is very hard. So you really need to train your mind various ways. It could be exercising. It could be meditation. For people, it could be boxing. For other people, it could be baking. But I think you need to intentionally train your mind. And that's what I help my clients to do. A lot of the time, we focus on building healthy habits. I'm not talking about diets, and I think diets is very important. But, my role a lot of the time is working with individuals and teams and really understanding, we talk about this already, what motivates them. What are their purpose? What are their values? Where do they feel seen? What really makes them happy? And a lot of the time we forget that creativity is very important. So we're just working all the time. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I just feel really bored. Things don't fulfill me, don't satisfy me. Yes, all of those things. In a nutshell, I help my clients to just pay attention to their mind. And most importantly, just be present. I love how you start with feeling grateful, because that's how you bring yourself back to this present moment, right? It's like, oh, you know what? I have at least one thing to be grateful today. I'm not doing too bad. So gradually, as we have this habit, as we train our minds, we become more resilient. And when bad things do happen, which I'm sure it happens to everybody, you have kind of like a resources where you can tap into. You can talk to people. Maybe you go for a run, maybe you sit down and just be with yourself for 30 minutes. There's different things you can do. Bring yourself back to the balance.
And what I've learned is, like, sometimes you go like, how was your week? How was yesterday? And you go, oh, it's pretty terrible. And you go, why? And you go, I had a car accident. And you go,
wow.
I go, okay, but that was one accident. Were you all right? Yeah, yeah. And then you break it down and you go, that was one idiot who crashed into us. But before that, we'd been to the park, we'd fed the ducks, the sun was out, we'd had a lovely dinner, right? Okay, that incident was bad. But was it the whole day was bad? And it's breaking out, and you go, well, no, and it was an accident, and we were okay, and the insurance will pay for the car. And you go, well, actually, it wasn't as big as the first negative that I just want to project.
Yeah.
Break it down, it's just one small incident from an otherwise great day.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that takes training, doesn't it? Because you can't. Some people, I guarantee, are a lot better at it, but I wasn't that person, because I'm very easily go down the rabbit hole and go, stop. We're safe. Today's another good day.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's like with press ups. You don't just start doing 100 press ups. You have to start with one. You have to fail. You have to. Then you build and build and build. That's what it's been. I'm going to say it again, a mind coach. But training that brain, that muscle, into being more positive than it is negative.
Yeah, and I think it's also acknowledging that, bad things has happened to me, right? So if it's an accident, then, you need to look into trauma, because trauma lives in your body. So that shocks, that you take when you have that accident, even though it's very minor, your body might still remember it. So it takes time for you to kind of let it go. In the animal world, when, let's say a gazelle, they get attacked, but they escape from a lion's chase, just making this up. But if you observe them, they shake themselves. Like they will severely shake themselves after the chasing. They escape, so they shake themselves, and then they return that balance. So that's why I think boxing, dancing, and things like that is so therapeutic for our body, because it helps us out to process those feelings. And that's why people find it, so addictive as well, because after you sweat, you have a good workout, you feel so much better because you are able to bring back these equilibriums of your body.
Yeah, you do. You there's more clarity, I think, in your mind after you've worked out, and obviously you get a dopamine hit from exercising as well.
Exactly.
And as you said, with trauma, you can be traumatized over simple things. If someone's talked to you at work, it hasn't got to be a major trauma. But you can carry it with you, can't you? If you don't empty that stress bucket a little bit.
Yes.
These little things build up, and then next thing you know, shouting at someone in the supermarket, or you're kicking off with your husband or your wife, and you go, instead of resolving it and going, out of 10 being the worst thing, 1 being nothing, because it's only a 4, but it's done me head in. So let's just get rid of it and move on from it. Acknowledge it, don't drown in it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's easier said than done.
It is.
It's always easier.
But that's why you train that muscle, isn't it? And it does get easier the more you train that muscle and live it, I suppose.
Yeah, so having a routine, I think, is really important. Like everybody have their own routine, whether they know it or not. Having some habits that helps you, building this container or this, I always like to say, like a toolbox. What helps you to relax. A lot of people don't know how to relax. They might say, well, I just have a pint. That's not actually, it's not. I mean, yes, that kind of relaxes you. But if we're talking about working on trauma, for example, if you have a major breakup with somebody, it's a very traumatic time. And I guess as men, maybe the advice will always be just get over it, things like that. It's not really that helpful because this human being is hurting, no matter how the relationship ends. So how do you bring yourself back to that balance, what do? You need support. You need people to talk to. You might need to see a therapy. You might need to join some boxing, join a boxing club. But so as a coach, that's what I help my clients to do, is find those routine and find those balance.
What makes them happy. And I say, like, we fall back on our habits, whether they're good habits or bad habits. When I'm in times of stress, like if I'm into a healthy place, I'll go to the gym, go and see Kevin Lee, or going for a run. But if I've got my bad habits, you drink, you drugs, you whatever, you fall back on habits in bad time. So it's trying to build up the good habits in the good time, so I fall back on them in the bad time.
Wow. Yeah, that's very powerful.
But it's easier said than...
Definitely true.
But it is. But more habits I create, the better I've got of resilience, haven't I?
Yeah, exactly. It's also rewiring your brain, literally. It's rewiring your brain to recognize what is actually good for you. It's like eatings. If you always eat junk food, your brain only recognize the feelings that you have when you, I don't know, have lots of sweet stuff, and obviously there's lots of things happening in your brain, and you get very addicted to it. And like you said, when bad things happens, you will probably automatically go for that. Like, I will just eat chocolate and that's it. But if you train yourself, and if your body recognize the nutritions and the good things, and then I'm not saying that you should only eat good things, that's not what I'm saying, but it's really about training your palate and training your brain.
And that's having emotional intelligence, isn't it? I'm going down this path. Before I go all the way down it, let's change course. Let's go back to doing what makes me feel better. Now, I can have a drink. I can have a good blowout. I can have a good blowout and a dirty kebab, and but that's all right. Maybe that's what the doctor orders. But if I go back to doing that all the time, I am going to feel sluggish and bad. Yeah. So I'm aware. That's out my system now. Let's get back to feeling good.
Yeah. And I think people need to realize what feeling good means. Yeah. So if people has never have a routines of exercising, they might not actually know how good it is to have a good sweat, or, even if your muscle is really sore, you still actually feel good. Your body becomes stronger and stronger. And during that process, when you feel stronger, when your body feels stronger, you actually feel more confident, right? I was able to pick this 5 pounds, and I was really struggling with this dumbbell, but now I can do 20. And it's a lot easier, and my body recover quicker. And this is how you build confidence. It's the same as, I remember when I first started to meditate, I got so frustrated because I'm like, wow, my mind is going everywhere. I'm thinking about constantly, what am I going to have for breakfast? The emails I did not reply. And then after just really listening to a meditation teacher, going for different kind of retreats, I realized it's not about stopping your mind. Because you will never be able to do that. You are not brain dead. Your brain is going to be very, very active. But it's just recognizing, you know what? My mind is wandering. But that's okay. Being kind to yourself. Like, okay, I'm not brain dead. Great. Now let me come back to my body. I'm breathing. Or my chest is rising and falling, and that kind of thing. And I think that black and fall is actually really helpful, because when you are feeling anxious, now you have a tool to regain this control of your mind. It's like, okay, I'm feeling conscious. Okay, how am I breathing? Is my breathing all over the place? Oh, let me take some deep breath. It's really actually quite simple. But if you master this technique, I guess in general, you just become a little bit calmer.
But I found that I did counselling years ago, and one of the first questions she asked me is, I haven't told you backstory, but my youngest daughter's quite severely disabled, and she's, especially early in her life, we were in hospital in quite some serious situations with her. And I've come out of those and led me to counselling anyway from there. And she is, and I was reliving an experience with her, and she asked me one question. She said, "How did that make you feel?" And I couldn't answer that question, because I'd never stopped and slowed down to think about that. And even with exercise, I've exercised for years. I've boxed for Kev and done all that good, but I never used to stop and finish the session and give, well, how are you feeling about that? Do you feel good? Do you feel that? I'd never done that before. It wasn't until she asked me that question that I realised I didn't do that, and I didn't do it with anything. So now I do. I appreciate when, and even if it's a bad feeling, I stop and appreciate, actually, well, you're doing that now, and that's what it is. Or if it's like finishing the treadmill today, I thought, actually, I feel good again now. I feel, and I wake up in the morning and I feel good. So I think sometimes you've got to stop yourself and stop in that moment and go, well, how do you feel about what's just happened?
Exactly. Wow, that's such a powerful message. Absolutely. And it's what I said, it's about being in the moment. I know it sounds really tacky, but actually that's exactly what life is about, right? It's these little moments that you have, recognizing, acknowledging. And this is where your self-awareness is built. You started to be aware of where your emotions going. I think we automatically react to things, right? I don't know if you you have this experience, but sometimes people say, especially like partners, they say certain things and it really triggers you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm so angry when he said that. So I think to me now I realize something in me is rejecting that. So having the ability to pause and go, I'm really pissed off with that. I wonder why. It could be anything, but the more you pause, realize that, the more you can literally be in control of your emotion, so that when people might scream at you or they say nothing to you, but it might not affect you because you know exactly, where your emotions is and how you can regulate yourself.
But that's it. It comes with age. It comes with experience.
Yeah.
It comes with the wanting to be better as well, I think. If I've always done what I've always done, I'll always be where I am. And it's that think, well, how do I become a better husband? How do I become a better father? How do I become a better man? And the knowledge for that and the desire for that makes you better, doesn't it?
It's more how do I become happy?
Or become happy. And how do I stay happy? And what am I doing that's making me feel good? And mine is knowledge, having these wonderful guests on. And then I go, you might there, Or I had a lovely thing about parenting. My daughter, Daddy's proud of you. And this woman, she said, well, how about when Daddy's not there? Will she get a comfort from other men? How do I make men happy? And it was, you're right. Are you proud of yourself? And sometimes you go, oh, I don't know, Daddy. And I go, are you proud? And you go, you know what, Dad, I am. And I thought, if you have that self-pride of, I've achieved this, I'm not doing it for a man, I'm not doing it for my father, I'm not doing it for my mommy, I'm not doing it for, I've done a good job then.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed myself. And in that a lovely way to try and frame things in your mind. And what makes me happy? Is it I've got a job, a pay increase, or is it because I've gone on holiday, or is it? It's my happy place when I used to do hypnosis used to be on a beach in Langkawi with the orange sand and my happy place now. Being on my settee under my blanket with my girls, my wife and my daughter, and how your mind changes. And sometimes thinking, the only person who's ruining today's you for being a grumpy git. Just live in the moment with the people you love more than anything. And it's changing that narrative in your mind. Maybe what I've got now is enough. And we just build on this.
Yeah, there's no maybe. What you have now is enough.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
And even your own mind, what I enjoy is thinking, well, I'm a very clever git. You've often got the tools and resources in yourself, but it's when doubt kicks in. And I bet that's what you do so well. It's going, well, you've got the answer. Just be brave enough to believe your own hype.
Yeah. Yeah, I think self-doubt is one of the things. So in the work that I do, we talk a lot about imposter syndrome, which is this feeling that who am I to, to take this job, to get this pay rise, or, to have a voice in the conference, in the meetings. Who am I to share my ideas? My idea is not the best ideas. Other people's ideas is always better than me. I think a lot of them is upbringing. We might have parents or caregiver that they meant really well. They don't want you to become like a brag. They want you to stay humble and work hard. They might say things to kind of like keep you in check in a way, but that becomes our own language. We automatically criticize ourselves before anybody criticizes us. So we become our biggest critic. If we make a tiny bit of mistake, we say the nastier things to ourselves. But if you think about it, actually, that's not very helpful, because you wouldn't think about the thing that you say to yourself. You wouldn't say that to your daughter. You wouldn't say that to somebody that you truly love. So why do you say it to yourself? And I think that's a really interesting, topic. So what I usually do is exactly what is have this little celebration. Celebrate yourself, little things like, today. Sometimes I have some really interesting one. My client would say things like, I got up and I washed myself and I went to work. That's it. That's enough. I am proud of myself for doing that, because we have bad days. Sometimes it could be I run a marathon, of course. And I don't know if you noticed this, but people who regularly run marathon, they just think it's like, this is a piece of cake. Like,
26 miles.
I just ran a marathon. I'm like, wow, you should definitely celebrate, but not celebration. It could be just a simple recognition. It's like, you know what? Well done, me. I ran a marathon. I recently worked with a client, and she's like, I'm preparing for my Chicago marathon, and she did London marathon last year. And then she shared with me she had a very severe postnatal, like when you get
depression.
Yeah, postnatal depression. So she showed me this trophy that says, reason to be alive. And I was incredibly touched. I actually cried, because I think to her, that is such a pivotal moment, right? From somebody who's severely depressed to go ahead and run a marathon. It's an amazing achievement. So I make sure that she knows how proud, that moment should be, and celebrates with her. But I think those moments are really important. Don't just go through the motion, really spend time to think about it.
Yeah, and don't seek the validation from someone else. Do it from
It's
within.
about yourself. Yeah,
And
exactly.
I would say that enjoy the good times and deal with the bad. And often we don't. We breeze through the good times because we don't know it's going to get bad, and then we dwell on the bad times. We do it in the wrong order. But when it is a good day, enjoy it. Whether it's, the sun's out or whatever it is, everyone who's listening to this, your good day. But when you are having one, sit and go, I'm winning today. And when it's bad, put down on your gums, you'll be brave and you'll get through it, because you've got through every other bad day. That's why you're still here. You're one of the people who survived the bad days, fought hard, and you're still here. So give yourself credit for that.
Yeah, give yourself credit for that. Absolutely. Yeah.
And what things are you aiming to do now? Because you do a lot of it online, don't you?
Yeah, so I work with companies. I do a lot of B2B trainings, facilitations. We have a system, so we take people through a systematic 7 weeks training. So each week there's a topic where people go through. It's a very systematic. There's a structure there, and also there's an app, so you can use the app every day to do, like a Jedi training. So the app forces you to take breaks throughout the day, which I think is brilliant. And I have lots of people say, like, it's just another app. I'm already addicted to my phone, and I'm like, when you are on the phone, what do you actually do? You are browsing TikTok videos. How does that help your mental health? Actually, maybe it's not good for you. So the app is aimed to break your routine. So you take 2 minutes, every 3 hours, you take 2 minutes and you breathe and you go through the exercise. Also at the end, there's a journaling exercise. It's just like 1 or 2 questions, very simple. It could be as simple as, what are you grateful for today? What do you notice? Because as we go through the motion throughout the day, actually, there's a lot of things happening here. If you take just 1 minute to think about it, you might be surprised. There's some moments that you wanted to celebrate, or there's some moments you simply wanted to just let go. So yeah, I worked with individual clients and also companies to do those trainings.
So you're saying then, I remember someone saying there's a difference between being busy and constructive.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
when you're studying for your exams and you read it and it's not going in, sometimes put it down, have 2 minutes rest, go for a walk, do whatever, and then come back to being constructive. And sometimes we get that mixed up, going, but I can't rest, I've got it all to do. Well, sometimes that rest is the important bit. Stop, go and make yourself a coffee or a cup of tea, or go for a walk, stroke the dog, whatever it is, and then come back to being constructive.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone does that with physical fitness, don't they?
Yeah.
If you want to build muscle, rest is actually the key component to it.
Well, in boxing, you have 2 minute rounds or 3 minute rounds and a minute off. You need that minute off to get your hair back in, sit down and ding. But the thing is, recovery, it's not out. Fitness is built on recovery. How fast I can recover, fitter I am.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the same with your mental fitness, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And not taking any break is definitely, it's counterproductive, and there's different apps that's stopping you. I know my clients use them. Sometimes a good old timer is very helpful. I set a timer for 45 minutes. When the timer goes off, I stand up and I drink some water. I look at the plants, I look outside. And exactly like you said, sometimes I deliberately will go for a walk because I live along the canal. I go to the canal a lot. And that's my happy place.
You say set a timer. I think setting the timers as well gives you focus within that time. So if you've set your time for 30 minutes, you're focused for that 30 minutes, knowing you've got that break coming up.
Exactly. Yeah. And when the timer goes off, you do stop. Go like, just another 5 minutes. That doesn't help.
But that
snooze it.
That also gives you discipline now, doesn't it? At 30 minutes, I've got to be done. Because if it's, and we all, especially in lockdown, it's like you're watching something being on TV or YouTube. It's 11 o'clock. Oh, but I'll watch this. I'll have another can. Oh, it's 12 o'clock. I'll have another can. And then you're thinking, oh, bloody hell.
I might as well stay awake all night.
But you're just thinking, all right, then, time over. Let's get on with it. Let's go and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, sometimes self-care is tough love. It really is. It's being able to say no to yourself.
Well, I heard that with parenting. The two things we should teach our parents, teach our parents, teach our children: the art of no, because no, you can't have everything, even if it's 50 pence or whatever, and the art of being bored. So when we're bored, our mind's got to create things. We haven't got to be looking at a device all the time. Sometimes look out the window, how many red cars can you see? How many great sonnets, movies, plays will never be written because you were scrolling? You know what I mean? Sometimes have our own independent thought and build on that. And I think that is a great lesson. Learn to be bored and see where your mind takes you.
Yeah, I think the devices, definitely. It's I'm really grateful I did not grow up with devices.
Oh, yeah.
So we were able to entertain ourselves.
Yeah.
We go out and we play and we build things, ride bikes on the street and things like that. But nowadays, when I look around, it's true. I think kids are, even when a very young age. My cousin has a 2-year-old daughter, which I just got to meet recently because she was born during COVID. She's 2 and she's really fluent with the phone and tablets already. She knows, she deleted things so my nan couldn't use them. And she's like, what's happening to my phone? I can't use it anymore. They are so intelligent and they learn so quickly. But then it does make you think, how do they live without the phone? How do you entertain them?
There's a balance to strike with it, isn't there? Because ultimately technology is taking over the world and there's only going to be more and you're only going to use it more. But also you do need those times where it's not around you, and you can learn how to cope with your own thoughts as well.
And social intelligence, how you read a situation. Because how we're talking now, there's body language, voice tone, all these things. Whereas a text message or an email is completely different, isn't it? But seeing that my shoulders are slouched or I'm not looking at you going, are you okay? I'm fine. Your body, your voice, everything is telling me you're not fine. So let's talk. And you learn that by being around human beings, don't you? And even if you're an introvert, extrovert, I think in the lockdown you go, well, I don't see no one. But the fact that you couldn't see anyone made even the biggest introvert lonely and wanted to go out.
And connection is so important. We are wired to want to have these connections, right? We're tribal animals, and we're so used to living in tribes. And my tribe is better, than the other tribe. But I think connection is probably one of the elements that is so missed during lockdown. That's why people are really struggling, because they don't have those concrete connections. And
I think your connections with your relationships, your work colleagues, your community, we're only as weak we're only as strong as the weakest link. And I think as people are striving to be more on their own and more selfish, you're forgetting the greater good. If we are stronger together, then we can do anything. For numbers.
I noticed, you mentioned about community a couple of times. And I think that's something I definitely realized this when I moved to the UK. The mentality is very, very different. I think in China, obviously there's pros and cons when it comes to community mindset. It will be a lot easier for people to recognize, like in terms of family values and community values, people will always think about the bigger picture, like what my actions, what does it mean to my family, to those around me? What does it mean to the community? But I think individualism is more celebrated in the West, where people are like, I want to be unique, I want to do my own thing. And it doesn't matter what other people think about me. I think there's a balance there, right? You don't want to be the shift and you just always do what other people tell you. But on the other hand, it does help when you think about like what you said, my action has an impact on those around me. And how do I help the community when I can? I think those things are, as the kind of balance I'm really looking to achieve.
But once again, it comes back to, as we started the conversation, we're going back to the very start. Kindness. I'm going to do what I can for me and mine, but I'm going to do it in a kind manner. There's enough food on the plate without eating off there's enough food on the table without eating off your plate.
I think you could say there's enough food. There's enough food around to share.
Well, there is. But that's it. There's enough food on this table without having to eat off each other's plates. We can all feed here. So there's the banquet. Let's all enjoy it without being spiteful and pinching your mashed potato when you're looking over. But that's how the world is. We can all get there together without being spiteful. And it's just a simple little thing to remind yourselves. If we're all kind to each other, we'll all get there. But if we're all tripping each other over, there's going to be some people left behind. Like when people say to me, Kev, how do I give back? I went, never give back. I gave, I gave it to you because I loved you. So give forwards. If you're always giving forwards, there's always someone there who needs love and who'll get love. And as long as he keeps giving forward, there'll always someone be having love. And it's the same thing, but changing the narrative. Don't give back because I did because I loved you. Repeat the cycle.
Definitely.
And I said in the lockdown, the only thing we need now to be more contagious is kindness.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely agree.
But Moon, how can people find you if they're looking out for you?
So I'm on LinkedIn. My name is Moon Lee. Also, I have a website. It's lunarcoaching.com. So Lunar Coaching is my trademark. It's my logo. So yeah, you can contact me there. And I am on LinkedIn as well. Well,
before you go, we always like to ask our guests, have you got any quotes or sayings that have helped you get through life?
My favorite quote is from Ram Dass. And he says, "We are all walking each other home." That's my favorite.
That's lovely.
Yeah, because home means different things, but ultimately, exactly like what you said, Kev, all tonight, it's about helping each other to achieve a common goal. And we're not just existing individually. We do need our community. We do need our connections and our network, especially when you are not doing well. You realize who's your real friends. So, building those networks and helping each other.
Well, thank you once again for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
And guys, thank you for listening. So until we see each other next time, I want you all to take care of yourselves and each other. Ta-ra a bit.
Listen. And that's a wrap for another show. But if there are any comments or messages that you would like us to read out for our next podcast, please be in touch. There are also lots of different organisations at the bottom of this page, and hopefully they can help you or someone you care about. Please share this to spread the word. Until we talk next time, ta-ra a bit. Listen.